Buongiorno. Hello, everybody. Mi chiamo My name is Donaldo Telo. I am here with you once again. My cousin, Dr. Lob-EZ, your professore, has asked me to talk to you today about industrialization, and I say okay. Um, so I thank you for allowing me to spend a little bit of time, okay? So let's get started, shall we? Um, you know, we have to go back, I think, a little bit. My cousin, he leave me a note, and he said, before you talk about continental industrialization, that we need to go back just a bit, and he recommend that I start to here, okay? And he wanted me to talk to you about when industrialization takes place first in England, and then I suppose in other parts of Europe as well, that initially there was a bit of transition that need to take place because prior, many a family, when they work in what do you say, the cottage industry, these families have lots and lots of flexibility, and what that means is they get to decide when they want to work. Okay, so um, the way it was, they would meet with the entrepreneur, the father, Papa. He would meet on the Saturdays, and they would be given the raw materials for the textiles that they either had to spin or weave. And so the family, could have flexibility when they start to work. They get to wake up when they want. They could take a break in the middle of the day or take the whole day off. And then, as it gets closer to their what do you como se dice, a deadline, that they could pull all night work, and that the way, they get done on time, and they work when they want to, and they relax when they want to. But all of this would change, okay? So because when the factory gets established, the families have to leave their cottage at a specific time so that they get to work on a time. So this whole idea, this concept of time, is brand new and foreign to these families. And not only do they have to show up at a certain time, they are not allowed to take the breaks as they wish. Okay, they must ask and then go at the prescribed time. And they don't like that too much, and it's hard. And sometimes the big boss at the factory, he may discipline the family, meaning he might take money away. He had docked their pay. Okay, so that was a challenge that must be overcome. Okay, so yeah, this was no a picnic initially for these families, but there was something positive when they first, in the early days, when they first started working in these factories. The family get to stay together, Okay, so the family is a social unit, number one. But number two, they are an economic unit. And so the families show up at the factory, and the papa, he makes an agreement with the big boss, and he says, my family will do this work, and they stay together, okay? So they don't mind the fact that they may have to work long hours, just so long as they are together as a family. So mama and the papa are overseeing their children while at work. And so, even though they work along a day, they still together as a family. Okay? So there was no talking about child labor, huh? Nobody say, "Oh, child labor is a bad thing." No, nobody mind, especially early on, because everybody together. Okay, so this, however, changed. Okay, in the 1800s, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years after the, well, really, about, yeah, let's go back. First factory 1770, so maybe 30 years or so. The factory work could change a bit. Okay, so the machines in the textile factories, they become more automated, meaning they require a less skill to operate. So the bigger boss, he figure, I don't need everybody. I don't need the men, okay? Because at this time, they say if the man is working, we must pay him more, huh, than everybody else. So if they get rid of the man, they have who left? The women and the children. And so it was seen as an advantage to, just hire the women and the little ones, the bambinos, to do the work so they can pay them less. Okay, so that's what happened, and at that moment the family is no longer an economic unit. Okay, they are broken apart, and this is no good. um, Especially because when the family go to work for so long, they are separated, and who is looking after the bambino? Okay, the bigger boss. Okay, he's in charge of the children, and he is not always a very nice man, and so it becomes a problem. Yes, does that make sense? Okay, and you see these poor children down in a mine, and they are transporting the coal through a shaft so that it can be hoisted up above ground. Okay, and so that we will talk about, or Dr. Lob-EZ will speak to you about how this comes to change eventually. Okay, 1830s or so, they begin to pass laws that forbid certain types of child labor. They put regulations on it, but we're not there yet. Okay, look at this big, beautiful building. It's called the Crystal Palace. Okay, and it was built to commemorate the Great Exhibition of 1851, kind of like a World's Fair, huh? And Great Britain hosted this exhibition to show off to the rest of the world their industrial might. Okay, so this big, beautiful building was made especially of modern building materials to symbolize how modern, in fact, the country was. So they used iron and glass. Okay, so first time this kind of structure being built. So inside of this, there are many hundreds and hundreds of displays of all of the different things that is manufactured in Great Britain. Okay, so they get to show off their industrial know-how and their might, and they get to show to the rest of the world that they are the workshop of the world, in fact. Okay, and it says in here some of the statistics. Okay, and you know let's see, gross national product, GNP, go up fourfold from 1780 to 1851. Okay, so this is an important thing. This symbolizes that Great Britain is leading the rest of the world in wealth and in industrial capacity. Okay, now that's Great Britain. Now let's talk about continental Europe. Okay, so please make sure that you have your study guide and that you have a writing instrument. I have my trusty pen that I will be answering Dr. Lob-EZ's questions. Okay, so I think we are somewhere around question number 17. Okay, so industrialization spread from Great Britain to this part of continental Europe first. Okay, the area today would be called Belgium. All right, and from there, the Germanic states, and then a little sprinkling in my mother country, Italy. I cannot believe it. It's this small, amount of industrialization because Italy is the greatest country in the whole wide world. I know you know that, but I just wanted to say it because I'm very proud of my country. There's nothing wrong with the being proud of your country, Okay, never forget that. Okay, now, so, oh, where else? And then, then it comes to your country, the United States, after that. Okay, so, um, by the time continental Europe gets around to industrializing, the British have had quite a head start, okay? And what that means is they know things. They have, secrets, and they have learned through the process of trial and error of what to do and what not to do. And the methods of industrialization have becoming a little more complex, and there is a requirement for much more precision. Okay, and the British, their machinists and their engineers are much more experienced in manufacturing processes. Okay, and so the continental Europeans, they get started more slowly. Okay, so there are lots of challenges to industrialization. That is one of them, that they got a slow start. The European geography is not always best suited for industrialization because, right in the middle of the country is a big set of mountains called the Alps, okay? And industrialization in the middle of the mountains is not easy. Why? Because you have to do transportation, and it's hard to go through the mountains, obviously. And then all throughout the countries, there are lots of toll stations, especially along the Rhine River, and that makes a commerce difficult. It is an obstacle, okay? So, yeah, and as Dr. Lob-EZ or his other cousin, Donnie Lee, say, the rest of the Europeans are not as entrepreneurial as the British were. So, that creates some problems. All right. So let's talk about then how the Europeans were able to finally industrialize. Well, it says here in the notes that they borrowed many of the British techniques, and it's in italics. No, it's in quotations. Borrow. What that mean is that they steal. They stole the ideas from the British. It's called industrial espionage. Okay, so try as they would, the British could not prevent people with the know-how for manufacturing from leaving the country and then taking plans with them to other countries like Belgium, where they could sell and help build manufacturing factories elsewhere. Okay, so that those British secrets were oftentimes sold. Okay, let's see. So the first man to do that was William Cockerill. And so he goes to a city in Belgium called Liège, okay, in 1799. And he, with his sons, began opening factories that are involved with textiles. And they start competing against the British, okay? And eventually, over time, he and his sons established a large industrial empire in that part of Belgium, and they branch out into the manufacture of steam engines and railway locomotives as well. Down here it say that Cockerill could boast that 10 days after an industrial advance occurred in Britain, the idea had already spread to Belgium. Okay, so that is important to note. So textiles and the Cockerills brought industrialization to Belgium. What about the Germanic states? Okay, well, we first talk about Prussia. Okay, and this man right here, his name is Fritz Harcourt. He bring industrialization to the Germanic states. Okay, and he began building steam engines in an area known as the Ruhr Valley. I don't see it on this map here, but the Ruhr Valley is near the Rhine River, so that would in modern day Germany be in the far, far west, okay, close to the French border. And the Ruhr Valley is full of lots and lots of natural resources like coal and iron, especially. Okay, so this man, Fritz Harcourt, is responsible for being the first to bring industrialization to the Germanic states, Prussia. However, there is something else about his life that is important, and it is that he failed and he lost not only his money, but a lot of other people's. And that is important to know because in business, that is always a possibility. That is why entrepreneurs must be okay with taking the risks because it is sometimes very dangerous to do so. Yes? Yes. Yes, I said yes. So let's move on. Okay. So let's talk about the French, the Frenchies. Do they industrialize? Yes, that they do, but not yet. They are waiting for a man named Napoleon the Third. Yes, this is true. He is the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, and he is going to come to power after the revolutions of 1848. And he is going to bring industrialization to France, but not yet, okay? So at this time, France, they're stubborn, the French, and they are satisfied with their little niche, okay? And what is that? They make all of the fancy goods for the wealthy of Europe, okay? So it says here scarves, silk scarves, embroidered needlework, perfumes, and fine wines, okay? So they were content to manufacture these types of goods that were highly skilled and technical, okay? And so therefore there was no widespread innovations, okay? So the French are kind of unique in that many countries don't industrialize because they are what we will say they are economically backwards. Okay, um, that's not the case with France. They just choose not to. Okay, because they want to be known for high quality goods that are handmade. That the way they can charge lots and lots of money. Okay. So this is important, governmental support and corporate banking. So one of the ways in which industrialization comes to the continent is through governmental assistance. Okay, it's you should note that this is not what happened in Great Britain. Remember, the government was very ambivalent towards business, meaning they did not support it by offering subsidies or tax break, otherwise tax breaks, nor did they stand in the way. Okay, so the entrepreneurs had to pool their money and do it themselves. Okay, but in the continent of Europe, the governments they absorb the costs, especially for infrastructure. Okay, so the building of roads, canals, and bridges, and then later with the railroads. This is a very expensive endeavor, and the governments decide that it would be them that would, take this on, so that the businesses can kind of have a boost, a boost. Okay. So Belgium led the way, building state-owned railroad systems. Okay, very good for you to know that. And also, it must be noted, okay, I should have said this before, so mi dispiace, me so sorry. Um, yes. What was I going to say? Oh, Napoleon. The Napoleonic Wars. A big reason why the continent of Europe has to wait so long to industrialize is because there's lots of wars, right? With the French Revolution, and then when the crazy man Napoleon get to power, I can't call him crazy because he's native to Italy, so he is, of a kindred spirit to me. But he was a very, war-hungry type of man. And so, because of that, things were too chaotic for much industrialization in continent to take place. Okay, all right, let's move on. Va bene. What does this say? I don't know. I missed Dr. Lob-EZ leave this on there. There's nothing of importance as far as I can see on this. It says that they issue treasury bonds to help pay for this. Essentially, what that is just loans. The government print bonds and they ask people to buy them. And then if the people buy them, the government promise, to pay it back with interest over many years. And so that is how they finance the building of whatever canals, roads, bridges, or what have you. Okay, so this man, Friedrich List, is an important German author. Okay, for a couple of different reasons. He talks about the importance for industrialization for the German people and the German states. I would say this man is a bit of a nationalist. He was favorable to the idea of a unified Germany. Okay. But first things first, he believed that it was of the utmost importance for the Germanic states to industrialize. And he said that if they don't do that, that they will lose out. There will be much opportunity that they will miss out on, and they will therefore be poor. If they want to be rich, the way to do so is to industrialize. Okay, so that's what he said. He advocate, excuse me, um, he against something, and I think it was on an earlier slide, and I missed it. It was about tariffs. Okay, so one of the ways in which these continental countries protected their brand new industries from a foreign competition, primarily from the British, was to slap tariffs or taxes on imports coming from Great Britain, right? To make them more expensive, so a particular country's citizens would not buy the British imports because it'd be too much money to do so. So they would buy from their own country. So tariffs, um, were a big part of industrialization. Okay, so Friedrich List say that it's okay if they want to put in import tariffs on British-made goods, but not other German goods. So he proposed the formation of something called a customs union, or otherwise known as the Zollverein. Okay, and the Zollverein is an agreement between all the Germanic states except for Austria. Okay, the Prussians don't like the Austrians because they see them as competition. Okay, and they have already fought wars against one another, so they are enemies. Okay, so all the other German states are encouraged to join with Prussia into this Zollverein. It is important for you to note that it is not a exactly free trade zone. I don't know, something about the AP. You need to know that it's a customs union, which means it's not exactly free trade, almost, but not the quite. I don't know what that means, but there you go. Um, anyway, so the thing that was important for the Zollverein to, also do was to build railroads all through the Germanic states. Huh? Okay. And, these railroads must go through many different states. And, that is a lot of bureaucratic red tape. And so they made sure that that got done, permission to build railroad tracks wherever needed. Okay, so the Zollverein proved to be a big success, and other Germanic states eventually joined as well. So we see here other areas joining in later. Okay, and so when Germany becomes a unified state in 1871, part of it is because the groundwork, economically at least, had already been laid prior. Okay, va bene. Moving on. It says here railroads were the key to tapping the industrial potential for Germany. They were the cause of industrialization rather than the result. Okay, so in other countries, especially Great Britain, they seemed to be the result. But in Germany or in the Prussian and Germanic states, they helped cause industrialization. Okay, so let's move on. Here's something also, a new feature. It's called the LLC, Limited Liability Corporations. Okay, so this designation was given to certain banks. Okay, because here is the problem. Banks are in the business of loaning money, but they want their money back. So when it comes time to making loans to risky business propositions, most of the time they're going to say no, because if they don't get paid back, their business, the bank might go out of business, right? And so they end up making very, conservative loans. And what was called for during this time was lots of money to be going out the door and being lent to people so that new businesses could be made. And they must throw caution to the wind. Okay. So the new designation of limited liability corporations were given to banks, and what this means is quite simply go ahead and make a loans, and if for some reason they don't pay it back and your bank fails, The people who owned the bank, they're not going to be responsible for all of those debts. Just they would lose, whatever money they had tied up in the bank. But as far as owing the debts of the bank, they won't be responsible. And so what this does is it gives some flexibility when it comes to making loans, and it encourages and incentivizes more and more loans are being issued, and that is what is necessary to get the ball rolling and industrialization to really, really take off. Okay? All right. I think that's good. Um, yes, yes, yes. Okay, now let's talk about the countries that don't industrialize. Okay, what? What is this? This cannot be right. It's showing these countries here are industrialized, but what is this in purple? It seems to me that they are not. What they are saying that Italy, what? No peasant emancipate. What the? Oh my goodness. So they are saying that one of the reasons why some countries do not industrialize is because they have an old way of farming. It is called feudalism. So they still have the serfs. Okay, and so this is what I guess they meant by backwards economy, that they're stuck in the Middle Ages. Don't they know that Italy is the birthplace of the Renaissance? How dare them! Cursing. And anyway, so yeah, this map shows that I don't like it, but maybe it's true. It probably not, but maybe. So some countries don't industrialize because of peasants and the lack of modern farming. Like in England, when they go through the agricultural revolution, there's all these new innovations that they take part in, and there's lots of money to be made. But I guess in these countries, because they're using outdated farming techniques, there's not lots of money to be made, and so therefore they have a very small middle class, and therefore they have less money to invest in businesses, etc., etc., etc. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, yes, I cannot. Oh, it at least they say Southern Italy. Okay, so that's okay. Um, so these countries are poor, they're stuck in serfdom. I think that's everything I just to say. And so the industrialization of Europe, therefore, is uneven. Okay. So in Southern and in Eastern Europe, there is little industrialization, including Spain. Okay. And so we know, of course, it could have something to do with mountains, it could have something to do with the lack of navigable rivers. It could have something to do with war and instability, political instability. It could have something to do also with lack of natural resources. So it's not just that they were, still feudal in their farming techniques and lack of freedom for the serfs. There's more to it than just that, but that is big, and you should know that. Okay. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my little friend, Jude. Uh, he allowed me to use some of his filming equipment, and he is a big star on the internet. He makes YouTube videos just like me, but he is a gamer, and so I want to give a shout out to Jude. But also, I want to ask you for Dr. Lob-EZ. He is trying to get demonetized. He wants to get this motorbike. It's a motorcycle with a sidecar. And he says if you hit like and subscribe, that he can get his motorcycle, and he and Miss Emily can ride all over the place. And then he said for 50 cents he will give his students rides around the parking lot in his sidecar. Okay, that is all. Thank you so much. I hope to be with you once again. But until we meet again, ciao, arrivederci, good night.